stories. You know how I love to do that. So can I read you a story today? Great. The name of this book is The Relatives Came by Cynthia Rylant. She's a great author and has so many children's books. So let's look at the pictures of this book. I'm seeing a house and I'm seeing somebody packing up to come visit. It was in the summer of the year when the relatives came. They came up from Virginia. They left when their grapes were nearly purple enough to pick, but not quite. How many of you have had places to go see relatives? That's always fun, isn't it? Especially in the summer, it seems like. Well, guess what? They had an old station wagon that smelled like a real car, and in it they put an ice chest full of soda pop and some of the crackers and some bologna sandwiches. But up they came from Virginia. They left at 4 in the morning when it was still dark. Wow, that's really early. Even before the birds were awake. I bet some of you have gotten up that early before, maybe to go fishing or maybe to go on a long trip. They drove all day long and into the night, and while they traveled along, they looked at some strange houses and different mountains, and they thought about their almost purple grapes back home. They thought about Virginia, but they thought about us too, waiting for them. You know how excited your grandparents get when they know you're coming? Oh, that is always so awesome. So they drank up all their pop and ate up all their crackers and traveled up all those miles until finally they pulled into our yard. Here they come. Look at the boys and girls. They're so excited. I can just hear them saying, "They're here, they're here." Well, then it was hugging time. Talk about hugging. Those relatives just passed us all around their car, pulling us against their wrinkled Virginia clothes, crying sometimes. They hugged us for hours. You know how those relatives love to hug you, just like Miss Johnson does. Well, I'm looking at this picture and it's showing inside that house, in the windows, things that they're seeing. It was into the house and so much laughing and shining faces and hugging in the doorways. You'd have to go through at least 4 different hugs to get from the kitchen to the front room. Those relatives, you know how that is, don't you? Just keep on hugging, I know. Well, what do you do when you go to visit relatives? Of course, you get to eat something awesome, don't you? And finally, after a big supper, 2 or 3 times around until we got a turn at the table, there was quiet talk, and we were in 2s and 3s through the house. I can just see that, can't you? I'm making a picture in my mind. I'm visualizing. The relatives weren't particular about beds, which was good since there weren't any extras, so a few with us squeezed in and the rest slept on the floor. Some with their arms thrown over the closest person, or some with an arm across one person and a leg across another. It was different going to sleep with all that new breathing in the house. Oh, did you just hear that breathing just then? Look at all these relatives every which way. And do you see that dog right there with his feet up in the air? Oh my goodness, how funny. Well, these relatives stayed for weeks and weeks. They helped us tend the garden and they fixed any broken things they could find. They're being helped, weren't they? Oh my goodness. They ate up all of our strawberries and melons, then promised we could eat up all of their grapes and peaches when we came back to Virginia. Look, they got a band right here, it looks like. Looks like somebody's got a big old bass and somebody's got a guitar and a violin and looks like maybe they're shaking something. Oh my, this must be a musical family. Do y'all do that in your family? But none of us thought about Virginia much. We were so busy hugging and eating and breathing together. Finally, after a long time, the relatives loaded up their ice chests and headed back to Virginia at 4 in the morning. They must like to get up early. We stood there in our pajamas and waved them off in the dark. We watched the relatives disappear down the road. Then we crawled back into our beds that felt too big now and too quiet with all the people gone. And we fell asleep. I see the family over here. Here's the mom and here's the dog. There's a shoe and a baseball. Wonder who that belongs to. And they're waving goodbye to everybody. Well, and the relatives drove on all day long and into the night. And while they traveled along, they looked at the strange houses and different mountains, and they thought about their dark purple grapes waiting at home in Virginia. What does that mean now that their grapes are purple, boys and girls? I think it probably means it's about time to pick those grapes, don't you? But they thought about us too, missing them, and they missed us. And when they were finally home in Virginia, they crawled into their silent, soft beds and dreamed about next summer. Well, that is about how the relatives came. Did you enjoy that book, guys? Can you make some connections, some text-to-self connections that you've had with relatives coming? I bet you can. Or maybe you've gone to visit relatives. There's my book for today. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later.